It's so weird. We've been trying to front load the channel for Thorgy the month-long celebration we do of horror movies. So we've just been watching nothing but scary movie after scary movie. And I was like, yeah, well, this weekend I gotta go and review the new film that comes out. So that'll be a nice little break from that. And we're here talking about The Nun. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take a break from horror films. And the Conjuring franchise was like, you ain't having none of that. That was a long way to go for a pun. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
I'm Michelle.
And this is our post-Geekout reaction for The Nun. Now, you did not see this, so it's just me talking about it here today. This is the latest installment in the Conjuring shared cinematic universe, which is a thing. And boy, howdy is this a thing. This is actually the earliest of their films, which considering that Annabelle took place geez, I don't even remember what year Annabelle took place in, but they keep going back further and further. And Annabelle comes from the doll that was in The Conjuring, and she had a film, and they were like, well, that film kind of sucks, maybe we can try and fix it. And then they gave an origin to what was supposed to already be the Annabelle origin. And actually, that one was okay. I actually liked that one. I actually think that was a pretty, it was not great, but it's a halfway decent horror film. It's pretty good. But during the middle of that film, there's a moment in which the nun who is at this orphanage is going, oh, that's a photo of me back from the old abbey that I used to be in with all the other nuns, and oh, we were the best of friends, all 6 of us. And this little girl goes, but there's 7 of you. And then she goes, I don't know who that is staying in the back. And then there was a post-credit scene to that, and I was just like, what? I would not have thought there would be a post-credit scene for Annabelle the Creation, but there totally was. And at it, it just cuts to the abbey that she was a part of, and it just shows lights just showing up, just with this dark, freaky nun walking towards camera. And it's the same nun that is in one scene in The Conjuring 2, which I thought was a throwaway spooky scene. Hey, they've got some creepy shit in their museum, the Warrens do. And, sorry, every time that I say the Warrens, I get a little bit of want to kind of talk about those shysters, but alright, fine, whatever.
Maybe you can save it for Thorgy.
Oh, we will, yeah. So yeah, in The Conjuring 2, there is that scene in which just out of nowhere, Elaine Warren starts seeing this creepy nun walking around her house because they've got something possessed there inside their special museum. And that combined with the teaser in Annabelle was all leading up to this film in which it's the story of this nun. And it's a pretty simple story in which this delivery guy, he goes out to this abbey way out there in the middle of nowhere in Romania. And he goes to take them deliveries. He goes up one day and sees this nun. She is just hanging there from a noose at the front of the door, and there are crows all over her, just her face is half destroyed. The visuals in this film are drop dead, no pun intended, gorgeous. This is some of the best horror cinematography I have ever seen. I will die on that hill. I don't care. I know people are like, really? The Nun? Yes, The Nun has amazing visuals in it. The locations, the way that they shoot these locations, the sets that they build, all the little props around there, the actual presentation of these locations and these special scenes is gorgeous. They look fantastic. I will get into the problems with this film in a second. But I had to point this out because, yeah, I look at this nun just covered in crows and I was like, that is actually really creepy. Man, you are kicking this film off. All right, way to go. So the Vatican ends up calling in this exorcist, but he's kind of like a rogue exorcist, not really rogues in he left the church, but more as in the church doesn't really like him anymore because one of the kids he was exorcising kind of died, and only the church really believed that he didn't actually do it himself. So yeah, he's got kind of a dark past there. So he's kind of the grizzled priest, I've seen some stuff. But they also call up this, she's not a nun yet. She hasn't taken her final vows, but she's in training for it. And you see her hanging out with all these kids, and she's just the sweetest, nicest girl you've ever met. Turns out that they're recruiting her because she has visions. She's got psychic powers, but they only very specific psychic visions, the kind of things where it's hey, Okay, I won't say the exact thing. We'll save it for
Like the spoiler?
the spoiler part after I give my score. But I will say, it's some signs bullshit. It's some, like, you probably already know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the kind of thing where it's like, they have had a specific vision in their head ever since they were young, and it all comes down to a very specific moment. It's like, okay, I get it, it's a message from God, and God knows everything. But fine. But it feels like lazy-ass screenwriting. So, okay, problem number one with this film. But they're the two main people, and they team up with the delivery guy who found the nun, and the delivery guy's name is Frenchie, because he's French-Canadian even though he's living in Romania. So, he takes them out there, and they start exploring the grounds, and Frenchie's like, all right, you guys have fun. I'll be back in a few days to pick you up if you're still alive. All right, bye, everybody. So it's just the two of them stuck at this abbey, and the abbey, again, it looks amazing. It looks incredible. By the way, I'm really hoping that abbey is the correct name for the place where nuns work. If it's not, I'm way off and I apologize. But they called it Abbey in this movie, so I'm sticking with Abbey. But it looks fantastic. It is old, it's big, it's creepy. There's all these like cheaply made crosses for graves all over the place, and there's other graves that have like little bells in them, and like every now and again the wind just blows the bells, which I've always wanted someone to do something with that. Ever since I found out that in the olden days of the plague, they would put bells on graves with strings going down into the casket itself, so that way in case they were still alive, they could ring the bell. I've always said someone needs to do something with that in a horror film, and yeah, they're doing stuff with that in this film. So yeah, the woods look great, the graves look great, the building looks great. I can't get over how freaking good everything in this film looks. Like, I've been playing a ton of Bloodborne recently. I apologize to you for that. I know I've probably been driving you crazy with that. But yeah, I've been obsessed with that game recently, and I kept looking at this going, man, if they ever make a Bloodborne movie, get this cinematographer, get the cinematographer, the set designers, get all the people who did design work on this movie to come in here for that. They nail that look of Yarnum. Yeah, man, this thing, it looks so damn good. I honestly kind of want an art book for this movie. I don't want to own the movie itself, just the art book. Because, like, during the ending credits of this film, there's just, like, design sketches of, like, the monsters and the nuns and the
nice.
location.
I always like it when movies do that.
It looks so damn good. It looks gorgeously creepy. So, yeah, everything that had to do with the design work in this film is great. But they go in there and they run into the first insanely obvious scare in the movie. There is some old nun, and her outfit covers even her face. Like, she is just completely covered there. And they don't even talk to her as they're investigating the area. It's not until they're about to leave that the nun in training just goes, hello? Like, she finally realizes, oh, that's not a statue. Which, yeah, we all thought was a statue too. And this lady starts talking to them, and she's this super old, like the oldest nun there. And she's just like, no one here can talk to you until sunrise. They all take a vow of silence until the sun rises. Something dark side. She is basically kind of Emperor Palpatine it. So yeah, they're now like, okay, well, we'll just stay in here. We got our orders to stay. So they're just now in this place. And this is the only nun they've actually met at this abbey. That's it. She's the only one. And as it goes along, on the night that they're there, you hear about the priest backstory, all the crazy stuff that happened to him with the exorcism. But then they start getting haunted on that first night. And the hauntings that start happening to them, again, they're great. They're awesome, like really creepy things that are happening to them. And not just because like the visuals really work, but also just because like they're set up pretty damn well at first. But then as the movie goes along, they keep throwing one scare after another at them, just over and over and over and over and over again. Until it got to that point in which I was like, you don't have the appropriate setup for these anymore. Like, at the beginning, like them walking around the big church, okay, that's spooky, all right. But this film, as soon as it starts, it just goes. Like, as soon as creepy things start happening, it is just off to the races with this. And, like, every 5 seconds, there's another thing you're supposed to be scared of. And that's when this movie started to suffer for me. Because, yeah, man, you need time to set up every individual scare. And this film has, like, as soon as the scares start, there's no more setup ever for anything. Because they're there on that first night, and it's just nothing but insane stuff going on. Like, there's a thing that happens to the nun in training in which she walks into this room, and I won't spoil what she sees in there, but what she sees when she walks into this room, that could have been the big major reveal at the end. That could have been the big major final moment of the movie. Like, the moment where this is supposed to be the big scare. That would have absolutely worked for that. We're like half an hour into this movie, and there's still another hour left of this thing. And I was like, what the heck else are you going to do? I'll give it to them. They kept topping that scene. They kept going bigger and bigger and bigger. But man, it's because this movie never gave you a moment to breathe. Like, they're there for only 2 nights. That is it. First night, all this crazy stuff goes down. But the sun comes up, and they're safe. Daytime in this world lasts for 5 minutes. Because then second night rolls right around, and dear God, it's just nothing but scare. It's just all over the place.
It's a terrible night for a curse.
You could also let these people make a Castlevania movie. That'd be fun. If it weren't for the fact that Netflix is doing it better than any movie actually could. Oh man. Yeah, it's just beating you over the head with these scares. And here's the thing. As I said, in the beginning, the scares are really set up very well. But when they no longer give you time to set any scares up, there's a lot of just really stupid jump scares in there. And really obvious ones. Like, there's a moment in which it's the priest is going up to what looks like a dead body, and he's like, just reaching out to, like, touch them. And I was like, hand comes up and grabs him. Hand comes up and grabs him. Hand comes up and there it is. Okay. All right. Something spooky just walked behind this person. They turn around. It's gonna be behind them. It's gonna be behind them. We all know it's gonna be behind them. We know it's gonna be behind them right there. We know it's gonna be. There we go. Don't get me wrong. There are other ones in here that I didn't see coming, but a lot of the reason why I didn't see them coming is because they don't give you the time to see them coming. It's like there's just a creepy ass thing right there. And I have brought this up before when we talk about horror films. It's that when you have a horror film, when you have a really dark film, or really like depressing film, you need to occasionally throw in there a joke or a light moment or something just to give the audience a moment to relieve that tension. Because if you don't do that, they'll start laughing. And one of the reasons they'll start laughing isn't really because the scene is funny, it's not because the scene is bad, it's because they just have so much stuff built up inside them, it needs to come out in some way, and laughter is kind of how the body reacts to not being able to understand what's going on. My audience was the best example of that I have ever seen. Because about, I would say the moment we start getting into the third act, into like the last half hour of this movie, my audience just kept cracking up nonstop. But it wasn't like, you never got that feeling that they were cracking up because like, oh, that's so stupid. Oh, that's so, oh, can you believe this? Like, no, you could tell no one was laughing at that. It was the most uncomfortable laughter I've ever felt. Like, oh shit. Like people laughing while they're saying oh shit out loud. The people laughing while it's like, oh my God, no. Like people laughing while they say oh my God. Yeah, it was so all over that audience. Like I'd say a third to a fourth, somewhere in between there, of my audience was doing it. Like down there, behind me, over in that direction. Like it was not like one specific person causing this problem. It's not like when we saw The Quiet Place and there was just that one jackass in there. No, this was people just like, dude, I need a moment to breathe. My brain can't handle this shit. And I know some people will say, well, hey man, if a horror movie makes it so that you can't handle it, isn't that kind of a good thing? It's like, not when it's taking away from their ability to be scared. Because, hey man, if the body can't like find a good enough outlet for something, it will put that outlet into something else. And here it's like, yeah man, people were just being hammered too hard with these scares, just rapid fire over and over and over again. and they had to let it out somehow. So yeah, man, you had a horror film where the entire audience was bursting out laughing, but not because it was funny and not because it was so bad it was funny. It was legit trying to be scary, and they were good scares, but yeah, man, just way too many of them, way too hard, way too fast. This really is a very unique film, I think, for anybody who wants to make a horror film. I think this is something that a lot of people who want to make horror films should go out there and watch, because it is the perfect example of how you can have something that works amazingly, but because you don't know the important lesson about pacing, which, man, I come back to this so much. The thing that makes or breaks so many films is pacing. You can have so many things working exactly the way that they should. If your pacing is off, it'll show. It's gonna hurt you in one way, shape, or form. And yeah, that's exactly what we were seeing in this movie. Because yeah, there's so many great visuals in here. Like, the nun itself is horrifying in here. There's so many just like moments where, man, I don't want to ruin anything, but there's like a moment where they walk into a room and, okay, I won't say it. I'm not, sorry.
Okay.
It's a really good scene. It's just, it followed like one thing right after another, and I was like, man, I don't have the energy right now to get invested in this scene right now. But as I said, you need those moments in there to just let your audience breathe. And you figure, like, when daytime comes around, great, fine, that'll work. But as I said, daytime in this world lasts for 5 minutes. And all daytime is that the nun in training is walking around, she finds another nun there, and the other nun just does nothing but exposition. Like, she just grabs her, and in like 3 minutes of nonstop talking from her, it's just, here's the origin of this place, here's why we're here, here's the thing that we're doing, we must always be praying for this reason, we must always be doing this thing, and then this is the dark origin of this place, which, man, the Conjuring world is going batshit now. Like, I am honestly thinking, like, I've always mentioned that when it comes to these shared universes, you kind of need something that's all building up to. I think this film actually went, here's what we're all building up to. It's Satan. Not to really spoil, like, that scene in there. Like, I'm not really going to go into much detail in there, but yeah, they come, like, flat out in this thing and go, yeah, it's not just like Ghost anymore. Hell is a real place. And we are going to possibly explore that in a future movie. Which, again, it's a really good-ass scene. Like, them giving the backstory of this abbey and, like, why it's haunted. I looked at that and went, shit, man, that is really creepy. And the visuals in here are so damn good.
It's like the Warrens go to hell and beat up Satan.
God, the way this franchise treats the Warrens, I wouldn't be shocked. We'll talk about the Warrens when we eventually get to Thorgy but yeah, man, it's... Sorry, I had to like come down a little bit from like, be chill about the Warrens, don't get into it right now. But yeah, like this whole stuff about like the backstory of the Abbey and like their little like, hey man, we got people who can summon out hell. It's like, that's really damn creepy and it looks so cool and this is all set up great and we're now on to the next thing. Okay, and now we're into this thing and hey, here's another scare. Like, a perfect example of what I'm talking about is there was a moment, this one isn't really that much of a spoiler, so this one I'm fine telling you guys. There was a moment in which the nun in train, she's going through this hallway, and it's the hallway where they make the crosses for the tombstones. So it's nothing but just cheap, like flimsy, like 2 pieces of plyboard just stuck together all over the goddamn place. And it's shot gorgeously. The entrance to this hall is an amazing shot. And she's walking through that. The nun appears. Nun does a banshee yell that starts sucking her into this door. She goes flying into the door. Door slams shut. She's fine. Oh, what's happening? Hands come out immediately from behind the door. Oh no, oh no. She starts running down the hall, stops for a second, turns around, lights going out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, oh no, oh no, run. Okay, I think I'm safe now. Hands come out from behind another wall and pulls her back in. That is all within the span of maybe 30 seconds.
Wow.
That's 4 scares right there. And it's like, they're all shot very well. The nun looks very creepy. The hallway looks very creepy. Peach is scared by just me describing this. But man, chill the fuck down a little bit in this movie. Yeah, that is the thing that really hurts this movie. And it's what makes this one of the most frustrating movies I've seen all year. Because, god damn, it looks so good. The monster's so good. The backstory to this Abby is so good. The premise of this film is great, and it's got so many things going for it. But just chill. Just chill the fuck out. Like, this is a perfect example of how bad pacing can fuck up everything else going right in a movie. Yeah, it really did hurt it. But, so, yeah, this film, if you're a horror fan, it's absolutely worth checking out. The visuals alone are worth going to see it. But if you are not a huge horror fan, but you like it occasionally, wait until it's a rental then for you guys. Wait until it like comes on Netflix, comes on Shudder. I don't know if it might be too big for Shudder. But anyway, whatever. We've started watching Shudder recently, everyone. It's not bad.
Yeah. I don't know, I don't know if I have a fear of nuns, but they always kind of made me uneasy.
Oh, you'd be fucked by this movie.
No,
Ooh, baby.
Here's the thing.
Because even the not demon nun is freaky in this movie.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's even though I was raised Catholic on my mom's side, I never went to Catholic school. So I would always hear horrible things about nuns beating students with rulers.
Those students got off easier than the people in this film. I'll say that. The nuns in this film are scarier than those ones, but I understand.
Also, I kind of felt like nuns seemed like a bit of a cult. Everyone was dressed the same and worshiping God.
I'm not going to come in and
I know. It's very.
We don't mean any kind of negativity towards anybody.
No, absolutely
beliefs.
not.
I mean, you just said that you were raised Catholic.
Yes.
But yeah, man, I totally get what you're saying. It's there's a moment in here in which they refer to nuns as the brides of God, and I was just oh yeah, man, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's and they're always depicted as nice and happy. It's they're a little too nice and happy.
It's either too nice and happy or beating kids with rulers. There's no in between from the nuns.
They're all nice and happy until you start chewing gum in class.
Yeah. So yeah, you might not want to see this film then. Or maybe you do. I'd actually be really interested in hearing what you had to say about this film then. But, again, to give you my final score on this one, it's so frustrating. I kind of have to come down right in the middle out of 5. But it's because the reason it's frustrating is because it's hard to look at a chef who has all the right ingredients, but because they just basically decided to turn that Lucy chocolate factory machine up to max speed, they just fucked everything up. Yeah, man, I'm not saying they fucked everything up, even though those are the exact words I just used, because so many things in this film do work. And even if you can't get scared by it, just visually, this is absolutely worth checking out. But yeah, I was never scared once in this movie. Well, not after the 10-minute mark, because that's when it just starts going. And yeah, man, it's just, if you just calm down, it feels like they just started writing down on a chalkboard all the scares they want to do in this movie, and they wrote down about 3 movies worth of scares, and they didn't cut any of them. They just decided cram them all in here. And yeah, man, it's a very interesting film, because as I said, I think this is something that anybody who wants to just study how to make films should absolutely watch, because it's a perfect example of, hi, Peach. Peach is jumping up on me. You can't see her there. Get up here.
There we go. Yay.
It's a perfect example of our own little nun, black and white.
No, she's not creepy.
She can be. But yeah, it is a perfect example of how it's man, yeah, you can have all the good ideas you want. You can have all the right people working on a film. You can have all the right set designs and the best designs on the monster and everything mapped out in your head perfectly, but pacing will fuck you up. This is for anybody out there who wants to learn that lesson. This is absolutely a film to watch.
I know you say timing is everything in comedy, but I think the same thing can apply to a
horror and comedy are next door neighbors to each other. I don't think people realize that, because both of them rely heavily on timing, on setup and punchline, and both of them also... I had another thing to say there, but I completely forgot what it was. Alright, fucking. Yes. Oh, they're also the two most subjective forms of entertainment. Because what one person finds funny, another person won't find funny, and that's perfectly fine. And what one person finds scary, another person won't find scary. That's perfectly fine. But when it comes to, like, drama, you know, we see, like, a little kid lose their parent to, like, a fatal disease. It's like, yeah, man, everybody is going to find that sad. No shit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to scary stuff, yeah, man, totally different for everybody. Okay, so that's my score. I gotta come down right at a 5, like right down the middle. But I still think that if you're into horror, definitely check it out because it looks so damn good. And if you want to learn how to make horror films or just films in general, this is a great lesson about pacing.
Yeah, like basically this is like a do's and don'ts of filming.
Yeah,
like.
Absolutely. Also, man, I really hope the people in this film get way more work. Not necessarily the actors. I mean, yeah, they're good. So yeah, give them more work. But just the designers in this film. Just the set designers. Just the people who came up with the monsters. Just the people who sketched everything out. Give those people some work. They earned it with this film. Okay, there you go. Spoiler time.
Yay.
Spoiler time. One complaint that I did have was about how short the one day that they were there was. And then it immediately went into night again. Hey, Peach. Peach is fascinated by me. But yeah, how quickly we went into that. And they don't actually ever talk to any of the nuns. Like, they talk to the one old nun who's just there in the chair, just not moving at all. They talk to her, and that was a really good creepy scene. That was actually set up very well. But then they talk to the one other nun who's just like, here's the entire backstory of our abbey, and here's all the terrible things. And I like that they actually do tie in the fact that, okay, someone tried to open up a portal to hell, but they came in, killed him, and then they decided to turn this place into an abbey so that nuns could be here round the clock to make sure that this place remained sacred, that hell didn't break forth again. Okay, good explanation. I understand that. This wasn't, this was back during, like, the Crusade, so it's not exactly like you could just nuke the site from orbit and make sure that nothing ever grew here again. Yeah, like, this was pretty much the only planet they had back then. However, this is set around the 1940s, 1950s, and... You're all good, Peach, you're about to fall. Okay. This is set around then, and the abbey has a giant hole in the roof from where it was bombed during World War II. And that's what caused the seal underneath the earth to crack wide open again, and now the monster is out. Okay, you can get down now. You're good now, Peach. Okay. So it's like, okay, I actually kind of like that explanation in there. But they're mentioning it's like, okay, the nuns have to there has to always now be a nun just praying at all times. Nothing can disturb her whatsoever. She has to just keep praying. And that's pretty much all the time we get during the daytime. And the only one who talks to any of the nuns is the nun in training. Like, the priest never even sees them. But then, towards the end of this film, there comes a moment in which all the nuns come in to this one room and they bring the nun in training. It's like, we have to be praying. We have to just, all of us, if we all pray together, then we can do this. And the monster's trying to fight them. Like, there's nuns just being thrown into pillars, just like their backs are cracking, just like, and like, holy crap. Which I will say, one problem I had with the monster, I think awesome design and everything, but she has this trick where she will yell at you and then you go flying into a wall. She pulls that out a lot, and yeah, it kind of got
like she just screams so loud that you'll get thrown backwards.
Like a banshee scream kind of thing, yeah. It's like, it eventually got to a point in which I was like, okay, you've done that like 4 times in a row. You need to chill on that move. That can't be your only one thing that you do. But as they're all praying in there comes a moment in which the priest and Frenchie came back to save the day, Frenchie comes back, and they go running into the church where she was praying, and she goes and she opens the door and goes, it's okay, we're all going to be praying, and as long as we're all praying, then we can stop this. And he goes, who? And she turns around and there's no one there. All the nuns have been dead this entire time. The nun who they found who hung herself, she was the last one left alive, and she hung herself so that the demon couldn't possess her, because if the demon possesses someone, then they have a gateway into this world. So that's why the nun killed herself at the beginning of this. So, and that's also why the day was so short, because, yeah, if she kept walking around this place, eventually it'd be like, why aren't there more more nuns here? And also, wouldn't the priest guy eventually have to go? Wow, it's weird that I haven't seen anyone. Really? Because I've been seeing people. No one's over there. Yeah, so I get why they had to make the daytime so short in here so that there wasn't time to raise questions about this. But yeah, it feels kind of like, yeah, I'm still raising those questions. It didn't really help all that much with that. So, but I mean, that was actually a pretty good reveal. Just this, again, the setup for it just didn't quite work for it. But from there, they end up facing off with the nun down like the catacombs underneath this abbey, which, again, if they ever make a freaking Bloodborne movie, these people, catacombs are actually a huge part of that freaking game. But they have to go and find the item that the people originally used centuries ago to seal this hole to hell. It was the blood of Jesus in this really gorgeous looking ceramic egg. But they have to find where they hid it in there. The nun in training has said that ever since she was a girl, she has been hearing this one message: Mary points the way. They find a statue of Mary there, pointing at a wall. And I was like, wow, did they also tell you swing away? Jesus. Like, man, I get it. It's like God can see into the future. It's like, one day you will need this message. Here you go. It's like, but if God was going to give her that message, couldn't God also just have, like, I don't know, told the nuns who were at the freaking abbey where it was?
Like, nope, you had to wait till they all died.
Yeah, like, why couldn't you tell those nuns? They're already here. Yeah, it just kind of like, it's one of those things where, man, again, it is a sign swing away moment where it's like, you gotta be kidding me that came back around for that. All right, fine. But they go in there, they end up stopping the nun, and the way that they stop her, it's a cool idea that they kind of screw up, because the nun is like drowning the nun in training in this giant pool, and she's like fumbling to try and grab the egg with Jesus' blood in there.
I could make an Easter egg pun, but
that's where it comes from. All this
now
stuff,
we know.
All this stuff about Christians stealing Easter from the pagans and their nature ceremony. Yeah, no, it all came from this egg. Wow, man, I wish you had seen this. But yeah, so she's fumbling for this thing in the water while she's drowning, and then at the end of it, it looks like she's dead. And then the nun grabs the little egg, raises it up, and then she sees that the egg is cracked open, and the blood is gone from in there. And then she looks at the nun train, who she's like still got in her hand, and the nun train spits the blood all over her face, which is what is able to do her in and makes you go, no, I'm melting, what a world. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like an action scene kind of thing.
Yeah.
To me. It's like, it was like, okay, you've been trying to be scary this entire time, and you end it by trying to be cool. Like, no, that doesn't work. What would have been so much better is if she cracked the egg while she was underwater, and she lifts it up, and she sees that the egg is like cracked open, and she doesn't see the blood in there anymore, and then she looks down, and she sees a little bits of red spreading through the water, and then suddenly the water starts burning her. And she's trying to like get out of the water, but she starts like melting into the water or something like that. Like, it's set up right there. Like, you crack this egg, like, it doesn't even make sense what she did. Because if she cracked the egg underwater, how would she suck the blood into her mouth while she's underwater? Like, that doesn't work, because the moment that the water like hits the blood's just spraying everywhere. Like, you couldn't like suck the pure like unfiltered blood into your mouth if you're trying to do this underwater. Like, it doesn't work, but something else that would have totally worked is just sitting right there, and yeah, it's kind of just
She needed to be a hero.
Exactly. It feels like that's what it was. It feels like, no, we can't have it be the slow burn ending. We need to have it be the kick-ass, and he was like, no, man.
And that's how she became an official nun. Like,
I gotta say, if you drink the blood of Christ, like, literally, not wine, but
yeah.
I feel like that has to give you some kind of promotion in nun school. Yeah, so that's how that ends, and then all of them leave, and then they all get into Frenchie's caravan, and they're riding off, and Frenchie's like, yay, we did it, hooray. And then he starts scratching his back of his neck, and you see an upside down cross start forming on his neck. Mm-hmm. Now, not to spoil anything for anybody for what we have coming up on the channel, but for Thorgeween, we do 31 days of horror movie reviews. We started front loading for that, and just yesterday, we started watching The Conjuring. Upside down cross. Does that sound like anything to you?
Yes.
Yes. You remember the scene in the first Conjuring where the Warrens were teaching their class and they were showing footage of an exorcism. And he said, yeah, this guy was a tomato farmer, had about 3 years worth of school training, but all of a sudden he could speak the best Latin that I had ever heard, sometimes even backwards. And when we lift his shirt up, you can even see an upside down cross forming. These are all the signs of demonic possession. This movie ends cutting to that class with them showing that footage, saying this. And it's the exact same scene, like dialogue and lines and everything, exactly the same. Except that the film that they are showing behind them, they changed all the actors. So now it's the nun that we were following in this movie, the nun in Train who did become a nun. And Frenchie was the guy who was now possessed. And I was like, fuck, I gotta give you credit on that one, man. Yeah, you had been hyping up the nun since the second Conjuring film, and then you put in Annabelle the Creation. So yeah, you had been leaning to this. But man, that was actually really smart how you were able to loop back around to the very first Conjuring film with this. Yeah, I gotta give him credit on that one. That's actually a damn good way to end this film if you're trying to do like a tied together, shared, all these films are happening in the same universe kind of a thing. That was actually, I got no complaints on that one. That's actually really good. I will go ahead and warn everybody, I should have done this before we got to the spoiler part. But I will go ahead and warn everyone that if you stayed till the end of Annabelle and you saw the post-credit scene in there that hyped up the nun, there is no post-credit scene on this one. Which seems like if you're going to start doing that for a shared universe, you need to just continue doing that for the shared universe. Like, I hate to kind of come in here and sound kind of spoiled, but it's like, yeah, man, you can't give me a taste of this kind of stuff and then just stop doing it. It feels kind of weird. But also because I know what the next Conjuring film is going to be. Like, they've talked about this in The Conjuring 2, which I still don't remember if you saw that.
I don't think I have. I don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to say you were there with me when I saw it, but I can't remember. But in the second Conjuring film, there was a moment in which they went to London, and out of nowhere in this house, kind of like how the nun just popped up out of nowhere in that one, there's also a scene where this house that they're in, this little kid starts getting haunted by something.
Oh, yeah, I'm starting to remember.
The Crooked Man?
Yeah.
This big, like, lanky looking
yeah.
dude? Yeah, he starts haunting him. I know that's the next film that they're doing. But it felt like, yeah, man, could have, like, put, like, a tiny little thing about that, but, yeah, they didn't. So that seems like kind of a missed opportunity. Although, it's so odd because now that I know that just, like, a random throwaway line from Annabelle was, like, a lead into this thing, I was looking at everything in this movie. It's like, are you going to do a thing about the Crusade guys trying to stop the wizard opening the portal to hell? Like, are you going to go that far back on this one? Because there's like a giant snake-looking monster that starts coming out of that portal. It's like, this is a Blumhouse production. You didn't build a giant snake monster and you don't, like, keep it in storage planning to use it again. Blumhouse recycles everything. So, yeah, I don't know if anything from this film is meant to come back. This might have been like the end of the nun thing, because it would be weird if they just kept going further and further back in time on these. But again, they do set up a thing during the Crusades during this, so they very well might. But yeah, God, it's so weird because I'm so mad at this film and I love so much about it at the same time. So that's why I'm sticking with keep bringing it at 5. But I do actually really like how they are tying all these things together. Like, I'm actually kind of looking forward to what else they have planned for this universe. I never saw the first Annabelle film, which I know everybody says is awful. At the moment, this is my least favorite of the Conjuring Universe films. But they've had a pretty good track record with me. As I said, I haven't seen the first Annabelle, which is the one that everyone says is awful.
You gonna do that for Thorgeween?
Oh, shit, I might. But when the worst of the films I've seen so far, I still give a 5. That's pretty damn good. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. This is the only review that we have for this weekend. I'm not going to see, what is it, Peppermint or whatever it is, the Jennifer Garner.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to see that. But for anybody who follows us on Twitch, because that new Spider-Man game is coming out that I know so many of my followers have been looking forward to me talking about that game. All weekend long, we will be streaming that on Twitch at twitch.tv/Professor Thorny. So if you guys want to join us for that, stop on by this weekend. We'll be having some fun over there. But thank you guys for tuning in. Come back next time. Bye.